you would prefer the human race to endure, right?
Uh,
You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would. I would.
He looks like shit. He looks like he's possessed. He looks like an orc. Let's get into the Lord of the Rings terms. He looks like a fucking orc. Maybe? A little bit? He looks fucking freaky, dude. And his skin just looks like it's like eroding off of his bones.
We'll pull on the religion thread a little bit here. You have been giving talks recently about the concept of the Antichrist, which is a Christian concept, an apocalyptic concept. What does that mean to you? What is the Antichrist?
How much time do we have?
We've got as much time as you have to talk about the Antichrist.
All right. Well, I could talk about it for a long time. I think there's always a question. How do we articulate, some of these existential risks, some of the challenges we have, and they're all framed as sort of runaway dystopian science text. There's a risk of nuclear war. There's a risk of environmental disaster, maybe something.
One of the things you have to remember too, real quick, is that Peter Thiel professes to be a Christian. So he's able to ask him, and I think they both do, the interviewer and him. So that's the context with which, because if he was just some atheist dude, this question would be, they wouldn't care. But Peter Thiel professes to be a Christian. So it's interesting. It's an interesting question here. So.
Specific like climate change, although there are lots of other ones we could come up with. There's a risk of, bioweapons. You have all the different sci-fi scenarios. Obviously, there are certain types of risks with AI. But I always think that if we're going to have this frame of talking about existential risks, perhaps we should also talk about the risk of another type of a bad singularity, which I would describe as the one world totalitarian state. Because I would say the political solution, the default political solution people have for all these existential risks is one world governance.
Who has that take? Other than the elites, other than the people who form the UN and the League of Nations and whatnot, who has that take? And this guy too, right? Like, who else has that take of we need to create some one world government? Most people I talk to are pretty wary of that type of thing. The New World Order, one world government, all this stuff. They're like, man, we probably shouldn't be doing that. People, even today, they're like, we shouldn't be involved in other countries the way we are. America is basically already kind of a skeleton framework of a one world government. And we're reaching in so many different countries. I mean, we're basically there. But I don't think anybody I talk to, any regular person, believes that this is the solution. The elites say that. Oh yeah, this is a solution. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
What do you do about nuclear weapons? We have a United Nations with real teeth that controls them, and they're controlled by an international political order. And then
also. An international political order is different than a one world government too. I don't know why he's trying to conflate these two things together.
Something like this, is also, what do we do about AI? And we need global compute governance. We need, a one world government to control all the computers, log every single keystroke to make sure people don't program, a dangerous AI. And I've been wondering whether that's sort of going from, the frying pan into the fire. And so the atheist philosophical framing is
bullshit.
One world or none. That was a short film that was put out by the Federation of American Scientists in the late 40s. Starts with the nuclear bomb blowing up the world. And obviously you need a one world government to stop it, one world or none. And the Christian framing, which in some ways is the same question, is Antichrist or Armageddon. You have the one world state of the Antichrist, or we're sleepwalking towards Armageddon.
Is that
one world or
is that it? Is that the only two options? Is nuclear war inevitable? But also the opposite, like he said, a global political order is not the same thing as a one world government being dictated by one country, one group of people, and that's it. That's a different thing. If you come together and you have actually diplomacy's been around forever. What are you talking about? You can be diplomatic. You can meet with other world leaders and say, hey, this is the situation at hand. We all have nuclear weapons. We don't want to use them. And that's that.
Antichrist or Armageddon, on one level, are the same question. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, but sort of one question is, and this was a plot hole in all these Antichrist books people wrote. How does the Antichrist take over the world? He gives these demonic, hypnotic speeches, and people just fall for it. And so it's this plot hole. It's this daemonium.
Right. It's implausible.
It's a very implausible plot hole.
Right.
But I think we have an answer to this plot hole. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop. And this is what you need to regulate. It's the opposite of the picture of Baconian science from the 17th, 18th century, where, the Antichrist is like some evil tech genius, evil scientist who invents this machine to take over the world. People are way too scared for that. In our world, the thing that has political resonance is the opposite. The thing that has political resonance is we need to stop science. We need to just say stop to this. And this is where, I don't know, in the 17th century, I can imagine a Dr. Strangelove, Edward Teller type person taking over the world. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg.
Okay, I want to suggest a middle ground.
The little girl? Greta Thunberg, the little girl? No, I think he's wrong. No, dude. If anything, the mad scientist type person would use a Greta Thunberg as their front, but behind the scenes, they would be pulling the strings. Kind of like what we got right now. Kind of like what we got right now with this guy, right? That's kind of what I think would be the move. You do have somebody out there who speaks to the people in a way that is very nice and people enjoy it and they're good propagandists. But behind the scenes, you have all these freaks who are pulling the strings and they're making all these connections and they're making deals and they're implementing this kind of AI global governance, really. That's what I think would be the move. And that's what it seems like is going on.
Between those two options. It used to be that the reasonable fear of the Antichrist was a kind of wizard of technology. And now the reasonable fear is someone who promises to control technology, make it safe, and sort of usher in what, from your point of view, would be a kind of universal stagnation, right?
Well, it's more, that's more my description of how it would happen.
Right.
So I think people still have a fear of a 17th century Antichrist.
Yes.
We're still scared of Dr. Strangelove.
Right, but you're saying the real Antichrist would play on that fear and say, you must come with me to avoid Skynet, to avoid the Terminator, to avoid nuclear Armageddon.
Yes.
And I guess my view would be, looking at the world right now, that you would need a certain kind of novel technological progress to make that fear concrete, right? So I can buy that the world could turn to someone who promised peace and regulation if the world became convinced that AI was about to destroy everybody, right? But I think to get to that point, you need one of the accelerationist apocalyptic scenarios to start to play out, right? To get your peace and safety
Which
Antichrist,
is what he's trying
you need more
to do.
technological progress. Like, one of the key failures of totalitarianism in the 20th century was it had a problem of knowledge. It couldn't know what was going on all over in the world, right? So you need the AI or whatever else to be capable of helping the peace and safety totalitarian rule. So don't you think you need your worst case scenario to involve some burst of progress that is then tamed and used to impose stagnant totalitarianism? You can't just get there from where we are right now.
Well, it can.
Greta Thunberg's on a boat in the Mediterranean.
Very good. Very good point.
Like protesting Israel. I just don't see the promise of safety from AI, safety from tech, safety, even safety from climate change right now, as a powerful, universal rallying cry.
No, but they're going to use China. They're going to make China is going to be the major boogeyman in the 21st century. And we're going to use that as the pretext. Also, China plus the chaotic nature of America right now, kind of on an individual level, but on a broad macro level, they're going to use China as saying, well, they're taking over with their AI. We got to stop them. We need to implement our AI systems. Please, everybody, give us all your power and money. I could see it.
Accelerating change and real fear of total catastrophe.
I mean, these things are so hard to score, but I think environmentalism's pretty powerful. You know, I don't know if it's absolutely powerful enough to create a one world totalitarian state, but man, it is.
I think it is not.
It is
in its current form.
It is. I want to say it's the only thing people still believe in Europe. Like, you know, they believe in the green thing more than Islamic Sharia law, or more than in, you know, the Chinese communist totalitarian takeover. And the future is an idea of a future that looks different from the present. The only three on offer in Europe are green, Sharia, and, you know, the totalitarian communist state. And the green one is by far the strongest. And,
in a decaying Europe that is not a dominant player in the world.
It's always in a context.
Right.
And then I would, you know, I don't know, you know, we had this really complicated history with the way nuclear technology worked. And, you know, we didn't really get to, you know, a totalitarian one world state. But, you know, by the 1970s, one account of the stagnation is that the runaway progress of technology had gotten very scary, and that, you know, Baconian science, it ended at Los Alamos, and then it was okay, it ended there, and we didn't want to have any more. And when Charles Manson took LSD in, you know, the late 60s and started murdering people, what he saw on LSD, what he learned was that you could be like Dostoevsky, an anti-hero in Dostoevsky, and everything was permitted. And of course, not everyone became Charles Manson, but in my telling of the history, everyone became as deranged.
Charles Manson also talked about Helter Skelter and the race war, which a lot of people are fueling on the internet right now. So that's another thing you got to think of. The chaos at hand will be used as a justification to implement order.
Is Charles Manson,
but Charles Manson did not become the Antichrist and take over the world, right? We're ending in the apocalyptic.
No, but my telling of the history of the 1970s is the hippies did win, and we landed on the moon in July of 1969. Woodstock started 3 weeks later, and with the benefit of hindsight, that's when progress stopped and the hippies won. And yeah, it was not literally Charles Manson.
Okay, but I want to stay with the Antichrist just to end, right? And you're retreating. You're saying, okay, you know, environmentalism is already pro-stagnation and so on. Okay, let's agree with all that. But we're not living under the Antichrist right now. We're just stagnant, right? And you're positing that something worse could be on the horizon.
The spirit of the Antichrist is alive and well, but an actual person or administration, an actual structure that will institute this type of thing that he's talking about, that is not here just yet. And I think that's what he's talking about, is he's trying to pin him on this and saying, you're building this shit, dude. You're building it right now for some guy to come in and take over the whole globe. And like I said, there's already a skeletal framework of America basically in every country in this world. And it'd be so easy just to slip this right in there. And there you have it. Easy.
Stagnation permanent that would be driven by fear. And I'm suggesting that for that to happen, there would have to be some burst of technological progress that was akin to Los Alamos that people are afraid of. And I guess this is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance and technologies of warfare and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building,
down,
right?
yeah.
Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great,
Thanks for
we're
that,
not
bud.
going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
I don't even think he is worried about the Antichrist. I think this dude is a walking contradiction. He talks about how he's a Christian, but he's a homosexual. Then in this interview, in other interviews, he talks about, fear of the Antichrist. But then behind the scenes, he's creating this AI apparatus that's going to usher in some sort of one world government. It's like, I don't think you can listen to this guy at all and think, yeah, this guy's telling us the truth. He's telling us exactly what he believes in. I think he's just spouting off bullshit. And I really don't think I think the only thing he really cares about is power. And I think he might think, I have to come off as a Christian. But he was outed, I believe it was Gawker who outed him as a homosexual. And Gawker is out of business now. They sued the shit out of him. So I don't think that he wanted that to come out, that he was a homosexual, because I think he wanted to have that persona of being a Christian guy to get the people on his side. But that took a detour, and I think it's just all bullshit. I think everything he says is bullshit, and we should not be sitting here thinking, yeah, he has a genuine fear of the Antichrist, because nothing he's doing actually shows us that. Everything he's doing is aiding that.
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
I mean, to be clear,
And he's fumbling, dude. This guy's asking him basic shit that a college kid would say. I would ask, I'd ask him this shit. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? If you're saying you're afraid of the Antichrist, why are you doing? And he's fucking fumbling. Airball. Literally fucking airball.
I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit.
It's Greta Thunberg. It's the woke. You guys should be afraid of the woke. Don't worry about me. I'm just trying to help you guys. No, dude. The fucking blue-haired libtards and the Greta Thunbergs of the world are not the people pulling the strings. I can disagree with them and be like, they're retarded, but they're not the masterminds behind this shit. You are, and your ilk is.
To permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted
scripture
to the FDA regulates not just drugs in the U.S. but de facto in the whole world, because the rest of the world defers to the FDA. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission effectively regulates nuclear power plants all over the world. People, you can't design a modular nuclear reactor and just build it in Argentina. They won't trust the Argentinian regulators. They're going to defer to the U.S. And so it's at least a question about why we've had 50 years of stagnation. And one answer is we ran out of ideas. The other answer is that something happened culturally where it wasn't allowed. And then the cultural answer can be sort of a bottom-up answer, that it was just some transformation of humanity into this sort of more docile kind of a species, or it can be at least partially top down, that there's this this machinery of government that got changed into this stagnations thing. I think something like this. Nuclear power was supposed to be the power of the 21st century, and it somehow has gotten off-ramped all over the world on a worldwide basis.
No, one of the reasons, I think one of the major reasons why we've been stagnant is because of technology. because of optimization. For example, the NBA, like look at sports, or even the MLB. They have so many statistics. Technology has gotten so good in these domains that they know the most optimized play to make at any point in time. And it turns out that in the NBA, the most optimized play is to take a three. Or in the MLB, the most optimized play is to hit a home run. It's not about figuring it out and doing trying to figure it out in this kind of chaotic game we're playing here. It's about, okay, we're deferring to the statistics, the concrete objective statistics, and we're just going to go with what that says. And what you find out is the game becomes incredibly fucking boring. The NBA is just three-pointers, three-pointer, three-pointer, three-pointer. There's so many, you can watch so many clips online of teams running up and down the court, just taking threes. Or MLB players just swinging and missing, going 0 for 4 every game, and they hit a home run every few games or something, right? And it's like, well, that's the most optimized, is he got his point. I see the argument, but I think what he's saying is actually the opposite. I think more technological advancement is going to cause less ingenuity. There's going to be less of things like that happening. So I think what he's saying is absolutely wrong.
So in a sense, we're already living under a moderate rule of the Antichrist in that telling. Do you think God is in control of history?
Man, this is again like I think that there's always room for human freedom and human choice. These things are, or at least where we are today, these things are, they're not, they're not absolutely predetermined one way or another.
Right. But God wouldn't leave us forever under the rule of a mild, moderate, stagnationist Antichrist, right? That can't be how the story ends, right?
It's attributing too much causation to God. But I'll give you John 15:25.
Yes, please quote
where
more
Christ says,
scripture.
"They hated me without cause," and so it's all these people that are persecuting Christ have no reason, no cause for why they're persecuting Christ. And if we interpret this as a ultimate causation verse, they want to say, I'm persecuting because God caused me to do this. God is causing everything. And the Christian view is anti-Calvinist. God is not behind history. God is not causing everything. If you say God's causing everything,
you're scapegoating God.
But God is behind.
But God is behind Jesus Christ entering history because God was not going to leave us in a stagnationist, decadent Roman Empire, right? So at some point,
good point.
At some point, God is going to step in.
I am not
Right?
I am not that Calvinist, and
That's not Calvinism, though. That's just Christianity. God will not leave us eternally, staring into screens and being lectured by Greta Thunberg, right? He will not abandon.
But what will actually do that is this freaking bullshit. AI overlord, global governance. That will turn us into that. We'll be stagnant in the way you want us to be stagnant. We'll be hooked up to all this bullshit doing what you want us to do, though.
Abandon us to that fate.
There is a great, I don't know, for better and for worse, I think there's a great deal of scope for human action, for human freedom. If I thought these things were deterministic, you might as well, maybe just accept it. The lions are coming. You should just have some yoga and prayerful meditation and wait while the lions eat you up. And I don't think that's what you're supposed to do.
I agree with that. And I think on that note, I'm just trying to be hopeful and suggesting that, in trying to resist the Antichrist, using your human freedom, you should have hope that you'll succeed, right?
We can agree on that.
Good.
Oh, yeah, we can agree on that. All right, he said, I'm resisting you, bro. I don't think a payment website builder should have so much more power than anyone else to define the vision for the future for humanity. That's one of the big problems. That might be the central problem here. We need to allow things to organically unfold. That's one of the major problems, is that too much order is being imposed on the West, that we are stuck in our boxes. And even the artsy people, even the artists, are almost always left-leaning progressive people. Their fucking shit that they churn out all turns out to be the same too, because they are stuck in a box. Their mind is in a box. You literally are being controlled. Your mind is controlled because you won't let yourself think about things that are you have deemed, society has deemed as being naughty. When the artist and the comedian should be. They should be poking that bear. They should be asking those questions and pushing and moving and stretching these things out, because that's where creativity and innovation come from. But even the artists in our society are captured by this, whatever you want to call it, wokeness or whatever. This is generally one of the most insane videos I've ever watched on YouTube. For real, dude. When I saw this, I was like, are you kidding me? My brother, what is there to explain the godfather of authoritarianism warning us of future authoritarianism? That's what I'm saying. This guy is a walking contradiction. I'm gonna get his book. I'm gonna read his book.